what is that? Quiet on the set. Quiet, come on.
Quiet on the set.
Are we quiet? Oh, we're on. Oh, all right, we're on. Hello.
Hit it, Ed.
Hit it, Ed. Hello, this is Veterans News, a production of the United Veterans Organization of Nassau County. My name is Ed Allman. I want to thank Altice USA for providing the training for our crew and for the use of their studio facilities here in Hauppauge. The show is broadcast on public access television. You can catch Veterans News also on YouTube. Just go to Veterans News UVO. The UVO, by the way, stands for United Veterans Organization. I'd like to say hello to our viewers in both Nassau and Suffolk County. I'd like to thank our co-commander of the Suffolk County VFW, who is our co-host, Sabrina Lacey.
Thank you, Ed.
I'd like to thank our crew on camera 2, Donald Cofield, on camera 1, Dean Santiago. Our technical director today is Beverly Allman, and our director is Robert Lane. Our floor manager and overall expert on things around here is Pat Galino. If you'd like to ask me any questions or comments on the show, or if you would like to become a member of our cast, of our crew, just email me, please, at mardiv1@optonline.net. That's mardiv1, the number 1, at optonline.net. Our guest today is Levi Spellman, the Public Affairs Officer for Northport VA Medical Center. Levi will talk to us about the changes we can expect in Northport very soon. Or some are soon, some are not so soon. We'll find out. We'll talk to our guest in a few minutes, but first, here's the veterans who died recently. Philip Marasco, the 1st Marine Division Association, served in the Marine Corps from 67 to 71. Rembert Brown, he was a 97-year-old World War II Army veteran from Roosevelt. He stayed in the Army till 1963. He fought for integration in the Army. Harry Saltzman of Long Beach served in the U.S. Coast Guard during World War II. Lawrence Kennedy of Manorville was a U.S. Air Force veteran who became deputy to Suffolk County's first county executive. Wayne Anstey of Hicksville was a proud Air Force veteran. Vincent Bonanno of Jamaica was a Purple Heart recipient from Vietnam. Charles Schiegel of Plainview served as an Army Ranger in East Germany during the Korean War. Anthony Maraglia of Islip was a Marine. Joseph Zaharis was a Staff Sergeant in the Air Force during the Korean War. John Mahan of Wantor was a proud Army veteran Army Air Corps veteran who served during World War II. William O. Farrell of Bayshore was a commander who retired from the Naval Reserve in 1978. James Franco of Floral Park was a World War II Navy veteran. Thomas Murray of Port Washington was a combat veteran and a recipient of the Purple Heart in Vietnam. Stanley Niedzalak, all right, this is a hard one. Stanley, which is the easy part, Niedzalak was a 96-year-old vet from World War II who served in the Army Air Corps and survived as a POW. John Gregory of Baldwin served in 4 theaters in World War II as a fighting Seabee. Joseph Prusab of New Hyde Park was a Purple Heart recipient from the Korean War. And the last one was an uncle, I believe it was an uncle,
Yes.
of Sabrina Lacey, our co-host here, Frank Freddie Theo. Freddie Friel. He was a Navy World War II veteran. He was 96 years old, and he retired from the Merchant Marine. If you know a veteran who died recently and you would like their name mentioned on the show, just email me, please, at mardiv1@optonline.net. That's the end of Veterans News from now. Now it's time for our guest. Levi, how are you?
Hey.
Okay. Levi, tell us first what you did in the service.
I served in the U.S. Army in the Public Affairs Corps for 5 years, and I finished my term of service in 2013.
5 years is a long time to serve. Well, it's a little bit longer than an original enlistment. Where did you go to school before that?
I was at the Virginia Military Institute. I am a graduate of that fine establishment.
Okay.
And I then did 5 years active duty in the U.S. Army. For my particular job, which was public affairs, the 5-year tour was mandatory because
Oh, really?
they're very difficult to find people who are qualified to do that work. So it's one of the ones where if they get you,
Yeah.
they get you.
How much time did you spend between graduating from VMI and before you went into the service?
About 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, I worked in the private sector in that time.
Did you work in public affairs?
I worked in communications and political consulting in that time.
Okay.
And then after, after a few years of that, I wasn't really happy with that work. And my friends all convinced me, my friends from VMI, they said, you should go in. It's a lot better than it was at school. And,
Yeah.
the service could use you. And, I thought, if I'm going to make it a career, if I'm actually going to consider it, I'm going to enlist. And so I did. I enlisted because I figured that would give me a kind of experience that might help me make a better officer if I decided to stay in.
Right. VMI, you wore uniforms all the time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's full on.
It's like a military college.
It's 100%. It's a 4-year military academy. George Marshall graduated from there. Stonewall Jackson was a teacher
Oh.
there. It was the military academy of the South where a lot of the Confederate generals either taught or had gone through.
Really? So where did you go while you were in the service?
I was first stationed in Oklahoma, and then I was in Korea.
Korea. Did you spend a lot of time in Korea?
About 1.5 years, but it went by pretty quickly. Korea was a lot of fun. It was very interesting culturally, a nice place to visit.
Yeah.
To see a different way of living. It was nice.
Just share some with the viewers what year you served in
Good.
Korea.
Well,
And you were having that fun, because it wasn't too much fun for me in 1985.
Yeah, well, there had been a lot of changes from what I'd gathered. A lot of the Korean nationals that I worked with explained to me that in the last maybe 20 years there's been a lot of buildup where I was stationed at. And in Korea in general, there's been a massive development since the end of the Korean War. Well, it's not technically over, it's armistice,
Right.
But their infrastructure and logistics and just from a technological standpoint, they are wildly advanced. I mean, far more advanced than most places in the United States. And
You said that before while we were talking, that Korea is more advanced than the United States. What
in
do you
certain
mean by
aspects.
that?
Excuse
What do you mean by that?
Well, they have the fastest internet in the world, bar none. They lead the world in internet speed and bandwidth and availability. Their cell phone reception, like my phone dies in Centerport or on my way here. In
Right.
Korea, their subway system goes 10 stories underground and you get full cell phone reception down there, 4 bars. So they have a data infrastructure that is superior to ours. Their transit system is newer. It's just newer. Like New York's subway system has been around for a really long time, right?
1902, I believe.
Well, in Seoul, it has
Yeah.
not been around that long. So when they first built it, they were using more advanced techniques, more advanced, discoveries that we'd had made in the previous century for engineering. And as a result, it's a more modern platform. So by the very nature of that, coming onto the scene and developing a little later,
Right.
they're going to have some slightly more advanced things than we have.
When we talk about Korea, we talk about the soldiers serving, like yourself and myself, serving in that region. I served in 1985, and we had to protect that DMZ line. So our soldiers was constantly going up and down that line, making sure no Russians come over to Korea. Today, going forward, where you served, what year was that you served? Are they still doing that up there at the DMZ?
Well, I did I did exit the service in 2013, and I'm at that time, they were still maintaining the DMZ, and I'm pretty sure they still are. I know that there are some cooperative villages and towns where, you know, the north and south both have, you know, people working in the same area, and it's just these friendship villages and things that they maintain. And that's like a big political thing over
Yes.
there, and it's, you know, it's part of their country's development and part of the obstacles that they have to overcome. Every country has its own pros and cons. We all have our own struggles to fight, and that's just one of theirs, and they're working through it.
I'm just concerned about the unification of the country, how
Yeah.
they develop when we were discussing earlier, because if we have some people supporting South and some people supporting North, and you just stated that we had a lot of development going on in that country, I just want to know who did they get their funds from, or how did they
Yeah.
develop so much with so little?
Well, I think in the beginning they had international support, and a lot of that I know came from the U.S., but they have developed their own products and infrastructure. I mean, you can't walk outside without seeing a product from Samsung, LG, Hyundai, Kia.
I got my first TV in 1985 from Korea. It was a Samsung.
Yeah.
So they've done wonders with the opportunities that they've been given that a lot of our veterans
Right.
had fought for.
I saw a picture from outer space of the built-up nation areas of the planet, and it showed North Korea. I showed the Koreas, and it was a photograph from night, and South Korea is all lit up, and North Korea doesn't have anything. It's a big difference.
I mean, I've never been to North Korea. I might have seen it once from a mountaintop,
Uh-huh.
but I have been to South Korea. I've been to multiple cities there. I've ridden on the trains and talked with the people and used the technology. I mean, they are a fully modern nation, and they're one of the leading cultural exporters in the
Right.
Far East. Like Korean music, K-pop, it is the most, like, it generates more revenue per year than any type of music anywhere on the planet. It's the most popular music in Asia, and so therefore
South Korea has a music.
it's a specific brand of pop music called K-pop, like for Korean pop.
Right.
And it is the most popular music
Wow.
in Asia. And Asia has a lot of people. So
Yeah.
so a lot of people listen to K-pop, and the companies that are making it, the music studios are making a lot of money.
Very good. Let's talk about Northport, because you're the public affairs officer there. You've been there for about a year.
Year and some change.
Okay. What's going on at Northport?
Well, a lot of things are happening right now. I think a lot of the veterans watching this show have probably noticed the fences that are up and that the parking lot's been closed right in front, and that's because we're replacing the steam pipes.
The parking
And
lot
one
is
thing,
closed.
you
Well,
sent
part
a
of it, and it has been. There's been a continuing progression on the steam pipe project, and it closed down the parking lot, but it's back open. It's already that part's already
Oh,
finished.
really?
But I want the viewers to know that they did notify the veterans, because I got notification. That was really wonderful of them to do that. So we can restructure what we want to do in terms of our visits there if we wanted to or not. So thank you for doing that.
What we've done in addition to not just letting veterans know, we've also secured a contract with a valet parking service. It's the same valet parking services that Northwell uses. It's the same contractor. So if you typically have trouble finding parking, or if you've got mobility issues, or if you just don't feel like walking, if it's cold out, drive your car up to the front. Right up to the front, the valet will take your keys, give you a ticket, and they'll park your car for you. When you're ready to come back out, hand them the ticket, they'll go get your car. And it's free. It costs veterans nothing.
Did you hear that? Suffolk County, Nassau County, all the veterans, now you could come to the VA and you could find parking. So now we can utilize our VA
That's
again.
right.
Because one of the reasons why we didn't want to go there, because we couldn't find parking.
Well,
So
we're working
now
on it.
we commend you for taking care of
Yes.
that one problem.
Well,
The next
thanks.
one would be the potholes, and then we'll be happy.
Well, that's an interesting thing. So let's talk a little bit more about the overall projects, and I'll talk to you about the potholes.
Okay.
So Northport's
He's
infrastructure
good.
is
Yes.
He's improved a lot.
well. I know more. Last time I was here, I'd only been in the job a couple months. Now I've had a chance to see some of these things firsthand instead of asking people, hey,
Right.
what happened with that? Can you fill me in? I was there, so I can speak a little more knowledgeably. So right now we're engaged in something that we call our master plan, right? It's a plan to reorganize the way we use space at Northport. We want to bring more of our services into the main hospital for two big reasons. The first is that it makes it easier for veterans to get the services they need because they're all in one place, one-stop
Right.
shopping, right? The second thing it does is that if we're no longer occupying these buildings, it means we can close them down and stop spending our resources on maintaining those buildings and start improving the buildings and services we are using.
You have
right?
how many buildings on the campus of Northport?
I think it's 87.
87 different buildings.
Right, but I mean, that also counts things like sheds and whatnot. As far as like major buildings,
Right.
I think the number's smaller. I think it's more like 20 or 30. But the point is, it's a lot. It's
Yeah.
a lot of buildings. We're trying to fit as many things into one building, Building 200, the main hospital, so that we can then focus more of our resources on improving and maintaining that space. So that's the first part, and that's going to require a lot of shuffling, right? Right now, we have more than 130 projects, improvement projects, and planned moves of services and divisions within the hospital. More than 130 are planned right now. We're in the middle of this. The planning started in 2017, and then the interim director, Kathy Cruz, had
Right.
helped further that along. And now that our new leadership is there,
And what is his name or her name?
well, our director is Dr. Antonio Sanchez. He's our medical center director. He is a doctor. He's a psychiatrist.
And where he's from?
He is from San Juan, Puerto Rico.
I mean, in terms of his expertise, where he's coming into the Northport from.
He was coming from San Juan, Puerto Rico. He was
Okay.
down there, and I believe he was the acting director for 2 years. Before that, he was chief of staff, and all of our leadership now is finalized. There's nobody acting; it's all finalized. He's our director. Our chief of staff is Dr. Charlene Thomason. Our associate director is Miss Colleen Luckner, and our chief of nursing is Kay Napoli. So we have our leadership in place. And part of that leadership's job is to look at this space plan, right? And Dr. Sanchez realizes he's got a very strong foundation to start on. He's got to review some pieces of it because he has the other additional things he wants to do, more projects down the road. And this is where it goes into the potholes. So I'm going to give you an example of why that becomes part of
Before
this
you go
plan.
forward with that, is Dr. Sanchez coming from a private hospital, or is it a VA hospital?
No, he's coming from the VA. He's
Okay.
been with the VA for, I think, 15 or 20 years. So he's been with the VA for a while. So one of the things that he wants to do is start planning out all of the projects that are going to improve Northport, not just for 5 years, 10 years, but like 15 years out. That way, in 15 years, if we have a new director, they already know what's planned, and they know what to expect, and they know what the target goals are moving forward. And the idea is we keep updating that plan as we move. Which also means you have to consider what projects you do and in what order. So we're tearing up the roads right now to replace the steam pipes because that's going to save us hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in energy.
Steam pipes?
Yeah, the Northport heating for all of our buildings runs on steam. And there's these big, thick, insulated steam pipes. The ones we had were like, I think, 90 years old.
Those not the things that's in the basement, is it? No, not those pipes.
No, the pipes inside the buildings are different.
Okay.
We're talking about the actual bigger picture,
Yeah.
big steam system. And the pipes had been old, and they were there was leaking steam out of them. Well, that's just energy. That's just disappearing, right? It's hundreds of thousands of dollars a year we're going to save just by replacing those steam pipes.
Good.
So we're replacing the steam pipes, and as we do that, we're tearing up roads. We're doing those other things. Moving parking lots, whatever, instituting this valet parking. But the goal is to get that done and finish it so that when we go in and repave the roads, we're not having to tear it up for the next project. So the roads are going to be one of the last things we do, but it's necessary that happens so that we're not having to do it 2 or 3 times. And it's part of that smart strategic thinking and planning ahead, which is going to allow Northport to, have the resources to make the improvements that we're already starting to see.
Okay. You explained to us the administration portion of the staff that they have with the, what is it called? Dr. Sanchez is the president? Was that what you would call him?
He's the director.
Director.
The
He's the
director, right? On the staff, do we have any of our veterans that have any type of, like yourself, that's on his board to give him advice as to how he should start planning strategically for the future of our veterans that may be coming back home and they may be ill? And we don't have the suffice amount of space for them to be taken care of as he go forward, making all these other plans. Because the most important thing is those veterans that are serving now that may have to go protect our nation on a radical method. And if they get hurt, we need to have a spot for them. They don't need to be waiting to get back into country because we don't have a place for them to go. And they need to come back to Suffolk County if their families are here in Suffolk County or wherever they are. We need to have that space available. We need to plan for that future. That's one of the major concerns that I have. And as working as a nurse over 10 to 15 years with the Northport and the Manhattan VA and the Brooklyn VA, I see a transition going on when they downsizing and they don't have enough space for a veteran who's really critical ill and a high magnitude of care that's needed and necessary.
Well, I do know that in our facility, we do have plenty of bed space for veterans who need critical care.
How many bed spaces do we have about?
You know, I can't give you the
Okay.
exact number, but I hear the percentage every day, and we hover at around 80%. We have about 80% capacity. So we have about 20% of our total capacity on any daily basis, any given basis. If a veteran needs to come in and needs to be hospitalized, we have the space to take care
So
of it.
I just want to add to it, because my daughter served in the military thing, she got hurt also. But we are the second largest community in the nation. So I just want Dr. Sanchez to make note of that, if he hasn't already. We're the second largest veteran community in the nation. That means that a lot of our children are constantly joining the military and they leave in Suffolk County and they serving overseas and they will be returning back if there's an event or something like that. So can you please just bring that forward to him and let him know that that's one of the concerns that our community is concerned about
Well,
when he makes his decision in the future.
Dr. Sanchez, as well as the rest of the leadership at the hospital, are very well aware that Nassau and Suffolk counties are two of the counties in America with the highest veteran density. That's mean veterans per capita. And we're also one of the two most populous counties in America. We serve a lot of veterans on the Long Island, on Long Island and in the Long Island community. We're very aware. And one thing that Dr. Sanchez is doing, and Northport in general is doing to ensure that veterans are being heard, is that we have Veterans Experience Office. We have meetings between that office and a committee to improve the veteran experience that veterans are actually involved with. We meet with our congressional representatives across Long Island, and we have a monthly call with them, and they have their own veterans advisory boards, and they're able to bring those veterans' concern to us. And on top of that, we have...
Excuse me, Dean, how much time do we have left?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, all right. I'm sorry, we only have 5 minutes left. I talked to you ahead of time about some of the things you were going to bring up today. Was there anything else that you want to bring up?
I just need 30 seconds for that.
Just need 30 seconds. Well, you
do it.
try to talk for 30 seconds and we'll have questions for you. But what else? You talked about the parking, you didn't talk about the pot marks,
Yes, that is going, the potholes in the
Potholes.
roads.
Yes.
Those are going to be, that is going to be done after we finish the steam pipe project, after buildings 1 and 2 are demolished, which
will be when?
Scheduled for the end of calendar year 2020. So by the end of
end
December.
of next year.
Yes.
By December of next year.
The end
But
of
we have
Dec-
valet parking, so they took care
Right.
of that. So
Right.
that makes it a lot easier for
Yes.
everybody.
Okay.
So that's a good thing.
So, but we're still on track. The state, we're still looking at that as being one of the projects that should be completed by the end of 2020. And after that's finished, because there's going to be a lot of trucks coming in and out, moving
Right.
debris, pulling stuff down. Once that's done, then we're going to repave the roads. We're going to repave the roads and redo the sidewalks. We've got a whole project already lined up for that. But that's going to come into play after these other things are finished. You know,
Are they going to open up the other entrance since there's going to be more traffic going on? Because we only have one that's open at a certain time. I guess they'll work on that.
I think that that's something that you're going to have to
Work on.
assess
Yes.
at that time. But we're doing that. Let's see. You had some questions about some other things. Please remind me.
Well, I know audiology has a new project. Now, if you need a hearing aid, you can just go to audiology and tell them you need a hearing aid. They'll give you a test and they'll give you a hearing aid, whether or not you're service connected for hearing.
Now, Ed, I'm not certain if that's true.
That's true.
Okay,
I know that.
But you have to go through your primary, right?
No, you don't have to go through your primary
You just
care
walk on
doctor.
in there?
You can just call or just walk into audiology
Right.
and tell them that you need a hearing aid. They'll determine if you need one. If you do, they'll give it to you at no charge. I mean, that's remarkable.
Well, I think that it's important that if veterans have any questions about that they call the hospital and get some clarification. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong, Ed. I'm not. I'm saying that I can't say that that's accurate because I am not.
Right.
I'm not up to speed on that.
Okay.
On that. But so if veterans have questions, call, and we'll be glad
Sure.
to answer your calls.
Yeah. Very good. How about anything else?
Something that could be of interest to our veterans is we're changing our network, our community care network. So before it was TriWest, and before that it was HealthNet, right? TriWest came in to kind of fill some of the gaps that we had with HealthNet, and now all of the Northeast, from like Maine down to I think North Carolina, are going to be going with a company called Optum. Okay, we're switching over to Optum because it's a massive contract with the federal government, and with that, there may be some shifts in whether veterans outside care, their physician is enrolled in that network. Like same thing if you were like Blue Cross, Blue Shield, some HMO, and you switch over to a new network, is your physician in network? Unlike those, we're willing to enroll people if they just want to be enrolled. You know, we're willing to enroll physicians into our care network. They just have to fill out the paperwork. So if we run into a situation where a veteran is getting care on the outside and their physician is like saying they do not want to do it anymore, we will have to work with that veteran on finding another physician within the network to meet their needs. And that could be important for our veterans who do receive care on the outside, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. But I just want people not to be alarmed by that, and just to work with your primary care at Northport, work with the community care office, we'll get you taken care of.
One thing that the veterans have brought to my attention is that we're having some changes with the dental program down there. And I was told that they're changing a lot of different stuff. Are we doing less now for the dental clinic? I've been fighting for like 10 years to upgrade the dental program. But I know that there's not a lot of people that meet the criteria to go to the dental program. However, if you look on the outside as a medical thing, if you have a medical problem and you're taking medicine secondary to your teeth coming out because of the medicine that you're taking, they need care. And a lot of the veterans that are in their 70s and 80s, they don't even have dental implants or teeth. They need to get that. So we need to work on doing that, if you could bring that to the Northport attention. I'm just saying, if there's a veteran that's 70 or 77 years old, they all should be entitled to some kind of denture if they cannot afford it, because we need to eat. And that's the problem that I'm seeing on the outside.
Yeah. I don't think that right now the VA offers dental care to everybody.
No,
No.
they don't.
It's the dental care is limited to veterans who are 100% service connected,
Right.
or who have a service connected dental condition, and they're covered on that. Those guidelines are not determined at Northport.
No, I just want you to bring it forward to the people
Okay.
and just let them begin to
I'm sorry, we have to close up. November 11th is Veterans Day. November 10th is the Marine Corps birthday. Marines, enjoy your birthday ball. Also on Veterans Day ceremony at Eisenhower Park on Sunday the 10th, at Eisenhower Park at 10 a.m. There's a ceremony, and at Long Island National Cemetery at 2 p.m. there's a cemetery. Happy Thanksgiving. The show is seen closer to Thanksgiving. November 28th is Thanksgiving. See you next month. Okay?
Thank you.